That start with the meeting time.
There
And
we go,
then,
just starting now. Anyway, as I said, I did paper agendas just so people would look at it. I plan to, as I did, I sent this one out, I think last Monday. Maybe it was even earlier than that. So people can add things to it, so if people wanna bring things up and talk about it. So let's just call this meeting to order. It is 7:04, February 2nd, 2023, council work session in attendance. Our councilpersons Martin, councilperson Gamera.
Camera.
Camera.
Yeah.
I remembered by remembering Gamera, I did the end part, and then I did the whole thing. Mayor Hughes, councilperson McNamara, and councilperson Bruger. Okay, as you see here, I'm keeping basically the same thing with committee reports. I envision that people who don't make all the committees, tell us what you've been arguing about, or if you have something that you wanted to bring up, so we can look towards it. I do have on today's new committee assignments. We don't have everyone here, but we do have a new person. I didn't know if it would necessarily even be fair just to slide him into Nikki's responsibilities, or if we wanna go over and deal with those. Mayor's report, because why not? And then this bottom part, the big five touches, this is open for debate or whatnot. I just think that there are projects that are ongoing that we should at least check in on at every work session. And as they can be removed, or if you think something needs to be added. And there we go. So we will start with committee report. Safety, I believe that's you, David?
Yes, it is. I have an email out to Mr. John Candy to set up, according to, what his schedule is, so that I can have a meeting about how to best work with incorporating the code enforcement, as that is now part of the role. So if there is a safety meeting, or there will be a safety meeting as soon as I have everyone's schedule.
Awesome. Services from the communications, well, that was Nikki, correct?
correct.
What are you up to?
Yeah, so we will move off of that. Finance is Brian, Councilperson Wolf, who was excused this evening. So recreation and parks,
Really nothing new since we had our meeting. I think everyone but you were present for it, but
Speak Eric.
yeah, I don't know that we haven't. I guess we're
I can-
working on the ran into some snags with the slide for the pool. So we were trying to work through that. They have gotten, they being Department of Health, right? Is it Department of Health has kind of gotten very strict on what we can have and what we can't have. So we're trying to figure out, and we have to have engineered drawings of the slide. So we're working through that and trying to see what we can do.
is that something we can have Mike Flickinger do on the side, since we have him
So
on
we
retainer?
asked,
Yeah,
Mayor has asked both him and
Tim Patterson.
Patterson, who's done our pool. Either of them can do it. And I think it was just whoever could get it done fastest and cheapest.
Right.
But we're still trying to find a slide, because the slide that we had chosen would not be approved by
Correct.
Department of Health, so we have to find a different slide.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, so, we're working through that, and then I think we're starting conversations about the future of the pool, right? Are we
Yes.
getting that?
So
Set
I,
up?
yeah, so I
Okay.
talked to MKSK last Friday, which is who we used for the engineering, for the baby pool.
Okay, yeah,
So we've already used them in the past, and Mike had reached out to them
Right.
when we were in the budgeting process.
right,
And I reached out to him on Friday and asked if he could put me together a scope of work, so we can go ahead and get the ball rolling. That will be brought back, and we will move forward on, assuming you guys want to still move forward on getting the master plan for the pool put together.
Right.
So we're just waiting for a scope of work, and we've gotten verbally from them and from Mike how much it's gonna cost us and all of that kind of stuff, but we don't have an actual,
right. So remember, we set aside some money in the
Yes.
budget for this coming year, just to get the plan put together.
I believe
Yes.
it was 100,000 is what we set aside for.
yeah, it was 80.
Okay.
I,
And then,
but he's gonna put more, he asked me exactly what we were, I talked to him for about 20-30 minutes.
Yeah.
He asked me exactly, but I also told him if he wanted to talk to you before getting the final scope of work, he was on vacation. So he's actually on vacation this whole week,
Okay.
so he said it would be next week.
Okay.
But I did offer up, your email and he goes, well, we'll just wait until next week. And
Yeah.
I said, if you wanna talk to him just to kinda get preliminary, then he said he would probably just come out and talk to all of council, and just kinda get some ideas of where our minds are going and then take it from there.
Yeah.
So he
So
might
then-
just talk to you
So
or them.
then, talking to Mike, his recommendation, if we decide to go through with whatever plan we come up with, his recommendation is that we would start it in FY '24, prior to the pool season ending,
Mm-hmm.
if we can, because we'll be competing with less other pools who are trying to get work done, if we can start it earlier.
Would
And
that
we have-
involve them closing our pool early
No.
that year?
It depends on what we come up with.
Right.
What I'm hoping is that maybe we block off part of, you know, maybe we don't have that big plot of land that's on the basketball, volleyball court side of it available.
For like staging and stuff.
So that we can start construction on that end, and then maybe, it just depends what we come up with, so.
Yeah, gotcha.
But, what I'd like to see is that we kind of look at the whole scope of that property and not the current layout of the pool and everything, just kind of say, hey, this is what we have. You know, what can we get, and then kind of go from there. And then, what was the other thing? We submitted the application for
Correct.
the beer license for the pool. So we'll see what happens there. And I think that's it. We don't have nothing from the landscaping companies, right?
Yes,
Oh,
I didn't think about it. Just got this. Okay. So this was just from today. I apologize for my delay on this. Snow has been a little hectic for this season and I wanted to put together the best bid for you. I originally put together a bid for us to come out 3 times a year to do a big cleanup like last time. After seeing that price, I figured I could build a full maintenance contract for the community. I have attached a bid that would have us coming out every other week for weeds and small cleanups. We would also do a full spring and fall cleanup mulching once a year. The price of the contract is equal to what 3 big cleanups would be. My branch manager would like for us to go more this route, and then we can see where to go from here. So it is, and I can forward this, like I said, I just got it. This is who I'm also gonna reach out to do the clover. He does have chemical bed weed control in here twice, or it's $25 each cost, 12 times. But anyways, the mulching is in here, the bed edging, the shrub pruning, spring cleanup, fall cleanup, $10,085
to get
You
all
repeat that
together.
number?
10,000.
To do everything.
10,000 for-
500.
10,000 for a spring cleanup, fall cleanup, and every other week
Yep.
for all of our beds. That's
Hand
And what
pulling,
do you remember what we paid for just the one cleanup?
I wanna say it was 3 something.
this.
It sounds, that's what he said,
And I
it's,
don't remember what we budgeted, but that feels like it's within a
I
budget.
feel
that
like
we-
it's really
yeah,
close.
okay.
So again, I just got this, so, I will talk to Jeff tomorrow
Okay.
and make sure,
Yeah, I'd say send it to all of us so we can look it over and then
Yeah.
let's
Definitely
check on
seems
the
like
budget.
something that needs to be put on the next work session.
Yeah,
Woohoo.
and then, did we get anything back from Aqueduct on,
no.
okay,
So I
I
will
think
follow,
that was
actually,
last.
this is why we do
Yeah.
these, so as you guys are continually talking, and if I don't hear anything by tomorrow afternoon, I will pick up the phone and call,
Okay.
because I have another project that I'm working on and nobody's getting my emails.
Yeah,
So
okay.
this has been an ongoing thing from the slide to the liquor
Right,
license
right.
to everything I'm doing, and the CMOM and the SSO reports, I'm doing all this work and nobody's getting my
emails
emails.
aren't going through,
No.
yeah, okay.
So we are still having one heck of a problem.
I think that's kind of everything that's ongoing right now
Yeah.
Gotcha.
for my committee.
And Stacy's not here for streets.
I will tell you for streets, hang on. The last email I have from, there's a couple things I forwarded you guys, hopefully you guys got them. EMH&T is who we're gonna go through for the surveying services for the lake. just as an FYI.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting ready to sign that stuff and get that ball rolling. It was like 18,000 something, but again, this is part of the master plan of the lakes.
That's on the lakes part of this.
Yep,
Yep.
so
Do you
that's,
have anything with streets?
nope, I'm still there.
Okay.
And then we just got through the signing of the last contract for the streets, for the survey work for that one, so that one is moving along. And then the other thing, cause she does streets, sewers,
That's
and
on repaving.
all that, so yes, we have that done, and then last is, hang on, last is the Jordan Road project, which is part of hers. Do you wanna talk about that now, or, I mean, that's her
Or we could do
committee.
that on the Jordan
Let's
Road
do that,
part,
cause
yeah.
I'll find the email.
Okay.
Sorry, she has a big
We were
one.
looking for new things or things that committees have discussed. It's okay, I don't, you guys know I'm not formal. I came up with a
Yeah.
thing to keep us on track. We can go against it, it's fine. Alright, so moving on to legislation, really haven't had any new things. However, we do have 2/3 readings this coming next meeting, which is next Thursday, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes,
Oh, good.
good
I'd
night.
hate to go another week without a meeting. The one is,
This is my social life, I love
Yeah.
you guys.
the one is the maintenance building, to put out bids for that. JP, since you're new, you might not realize down there at the corner of Maplewood, where there's that little area, we're planning to put the building not to exceed 2,700 square feet as a maintenance building, just a big open bay garage, big bay doors, small office, small workspace, small restrooms in there.
Cool.
And we're putting that out to bid. The other one that is looking to get passed is 2023-05, which is the shelter house. Not to exceed 75,000 to be there across from the basketball courts. My real sort of view on these work sessions is that we have arguments and debates here, so that by the time we get to a council meeting, we can just vote. So far, no one has raised any objections in the meeting. Is there anyone who wants to raise an objection to the shelter house before, I'm not telling you how to vote, but before presumably we all vote yes at the meeting?
I will not raise a objection to it, but I will say is, all the things you talked about, like, the noise, reducing fence or, tree line or whatever,
Mhm.
those should all be very purposefully, spoken to so that the people realize that we have taken their considerations, into account in this. This has been fairly contentious, and I do think that it'll be a net benefit. I do think that the events of 2020 and all the COVID, lockdown issues were hopefully a historical anomaly, but we definitely need to be clear that, we will work on noise mitigation, we will, have, the police swing by, with a reasonable frequency, we need to, make sure that the people know that it's not just gonna be, built and abandoned to be, taken over by whatever.
Almost as though if you put your outdoor park things in one compact geographic area, they're actually easier to patrol, not harder.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah,
I agree with David here in that I just wanna make sure that we've addressed some of the concerns. And I'm not saying we haven't.
Yeah.
I just wanna make
Yeah.
sure our community knows how we're addressing some of that stuff. So,
Awesome, and as has been mentioned before, yeah, a lot of them have been, we're working with the owners who are gonna be adjacent to it on what they would like as a barrier. We're reasonably flexible, to like, hey, you want shrubs, because you don't want a fence, great, you
Right.
want a fence, you want a 6-foot fence, or you want a 4-foot chain fence, because you want the view, but you don't want people coming in your yard.
right,
We're
yeah,
I do
willing
believe
to
that,
work with them.
I do believe that due diligence has been done,
and I know it doesn't say anything in here, but I know we've talked about that it will have a camera and things like that,
Yeah.
so,
So
This-
security is definitely addressed in that sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in some ways enhanced. One of the reasons it's difficult to get a camera down at the basketball courts now is all you're gonna do is put it on a pole and that sticks out. And invites people to mess with it, whereas if you can put it on a building that isn't planning to have electricity to it,
Right.
that takes care of the electricity,
Right.
that gives you a place to put it that's high and secure
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yep.
And once we have more electrical infrastructure down there, that leaves more options open for, further, benefits for the residents in the future, so.
I think this is a wonderful addition to the community.
And I think the other thing that there was a lot of talk, and I know that you weren't there, Mark, but there was a lot of talk about, well, why can't we do it here and why can't we do it there? And oh, you were? You were
Yeah,
at
he
that?
was.
Oh. who
You and I
was
were
it?
just sitting close together.
Oh, okay. I thought
Brian wasn't
missed
there.
it. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think the thing that the other piece was well, why didn't you do it there and why didn't you do it there? And just continuing that communication of, it's not that we don't have plans for any of those spaces. This is just the best spot for this particular
Right.
space.
I
This is the
agree.
first,
You know?
yeah.
Well,
We still have plans for maybe a structure down the road at the lake and stuff over at the pool and, so it's not that, they all have spots, not, it's
Well,
not one building.
To me, once they said, well, what about down there in the corner by where, the
Yeah,
path
over by-
goes
yeah.
down and then comes up
Yeah,
the hill
over
or
by
goes
my
the other
house,
way.
yeah.
Once that was brought up and people were saying like, yes, that's a floodplain, it's soggy.
Right, right.
And they were just
Right.
like, well, why can't we put it there? Is you'll notice
Right.
I didn't say anything in that meeting. I had stopped talking because I realized, and I'll say this on the record, there were people there who weren't listening.
I know,
And
I know,
were just,
yeah.
this is, and I was just like, well, that's been explained to you.
right,
And you're still saying it's terrible, but it's been explained to you.
Right.
And I just don't engage those people.
Right.
There was some discussion earlier as we were familiarizing our newly appointed councilperson Martin about responding in emails or responding to people saying things, and to me, this folds right into it. If you
Sure.
respond to someone and they say, well, yes, I hear what you're saying, but I'm gonna ignore it and pretend it didn't happen, there's no sense in responding again to them.
right, right. And it's not that, even over there, maybe not in that swampy area, but even over there, a gazebo or something
Right.
like
There
that
was
could go
talk
against
about
the-
utilizing up
There's
on top
plenty
of the
of room,
hill
yeah.
around that big lake,
Yeah,
putting something
absolutely.
there too,
Yeah,
yes.
so.
That was.
It would be
Yeah,
nice.
I just, we've talked about this before, that we know that there's an issue with us having conversations and those things getting out to our community. As yes, we do discuss this stuff and we talk about it, so,
Without going into detail on that, the thing that Brian always says it perfect. There is still only so much you can do. You cannot force people to
Right.
want to get involved.
Right.
And it's always about how the information is distributed.
Sure.
So, unfortunately, this particular item was distributed as a
Yeah.
scare factor, and we
Right.
can all agree with that. I've heard multiple things, and it's not just about that, but when you go up to somebody, oh my gosh, did you hear they're doing this, and oh my god, this happened, and this happened, and this happened.
What can you make,
Then they
yes.
told the
Right,
next person
so,
that-
and then the next person,
Alright,
but,
well, we all know that, and that
Yes.
is over, so let's move on here, not to be.
no, you're good. I think we all wanna go home.
Jerk like guy. Next I had on our agenda new committee assignments, since we're down to council persons tonight, I think we should probably table that to just freeze everyone where they are until we can get councilpersons Wolf and Cost here. And once again, when I say new committee assignments, if people just wanna stay where they are, a lot of it was just because with a new person, I wanted to see if that new person's like, oh, I really don't wanna be on the services, formerly communications chair, just because I'm replacing the person who was on that, and it's the beginning of the year. But I've already taken too much time for an agenda point that I'm just moving to the next meeting. Next on my at least agenda, which I guess is official, is mayor's report, so anything, now, look at the next 5.
No,
Anything not covered in those next 5?
I'd rather talk about all of them.
Okay, well then we can move on to the big 5 touches.
No, you guys should all know that my mayor's report is done 5 minutes before my mayor's report, so
Yeah.
there you go. So I have no idea what I'm gonna talk about.
Oh, no, I meant
We're way too early.
like, just you're here at, you
No.
know, in theory, this is a council work session, you're here.
No.
Are you here because you wanted to bring something to work session? This is just an official place on here that you can say, oh, this or that, you know, I have an opportunity, I want the council to hear about it.
I like to fly by the seat of my
Yeah,
pants, so.
that's, I
Any,
like agendas,
any-
alright,
well-
now on to
Okay, I guess.
what's gonna make.
Did you have something for my
No,
mayor's
I was
report?
gonna ask some questions that
Oh,
I
go
think
for it.
we're working on.
That's the
that
other thing, you
might-
can
Oh, yeah.
ask Mayor
Yeah.
questions.
I'm
Why didn't
afraid to
you bother
answer
with
anything,
that?
they might be
No,
down
no, no,
here.
no.
Oh, I'm
No.
gonna change that, see, that's why I have the paper
only
copy, so I
because-
can edit mayor's reports /
I
questions
feel like I'm out of
for
the loop on
mayor.
a couple things.
Go
so,
for it. Well, and Eric's here too,
Yeah, yeah,
so.
Eric's here too.
Yes.
So, are we fully staffed with our police department? Or,
No,
okay, and what's, where
we have
we
2
at?
interviews. We did an interview with you last week and we have 2 more interviews next week. We are in the process of looking for, and maybe I should let Chief chime in on it, but, an SRO is still needed. We did hire a person, just a couple months ago that is currently still in FTO. They should be coming out of FTO, and I shouldn't say that because I don't know if they're actually out of it yesterday, today, tomorrow. Then we do have the other interviews for an SRO. That SRO will actually be in our training and working until the school opens. So no, we are in the process of 1 more right now.
One more is where
Correct.
we're at. Okay.
And we also, just as a reminder, we also have one of our officers that's
Right.
overseas right now.
Right, correct. Okay,
So, yes,
Activated active duty,
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
next
that's
slide.
Yes.
all more I need, don't need any details into their life.
yes.
Any building updates? Oh,
Eric-
community buildings on here, never mind,
Yeah,
shut up.
Eric will give
Never mind.
those when we get there.
But, yeah, I'm trying to respect
No.
it, I'm just
And
thinking through
also-
some stuff that.
Well, amphitheater is not on here, which
Yeah.
maybe we could just ask him, the big 5 touches, make it the 6 big touches is amphitheater, cause I know that has been a question that a couple people have asked.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the other big thing that I know a lot of people really wanna focus on this year, and just cause I've heard it, is walking paths. Just making sure that those stay as a top priority, as the big 7 touches.
Right.
Other than that, I don't know if you have other ones, but yeah,
No,
we'll let him
well,
do the
I
community
think-
building.
I think something that's happening in the mayor's office is Barb has worked real hard on trying to get all of our stuff online for forms and payments
job-
and stuff like that, so.
Yes.
There's been a movement to move a lot of our stuff, make it easier on
Yes.
people and using their Square system that we have and.
Do we need to do anything with, the pool
Yeah, register.
register,
Yeah.
like, that's
Oh,
something we
oh,
can
then
talk
the
about later,
software.
do we
Yep.
need to do anything with the software, sign up, pay money? So maybe that's something we need to talk about in the next couple days, so we're rolling on that too.
Yeah.
I meant to ask you that,
Yep.
cause that's something we can take care of.
Yep.
The Square machine is also something I would like to get
Yep.
rolling sooner rather than later.
Yep.
So as far as our office goes, as long as you guys are good with that, I'd like to just get that stuff done. Some of the other things that we're working on would be, this is a new thing, so, Barb and I have our second, meeting with, Civic Plus, which is Municode's website, all that. It is the agenda management system is what we're talking with them about right now. I'm not gonna go in crazy detail, but it's, another thing putting us into the century. So it's everything that we do as far as legislation gets automatically put in there, and as we put legislation, it gets approved from it could be chief, it could be myself, it could be whoever puts it in there, it gets approved, it all goes in there, puts it on the agenda, gets it posted to the website. So it's just, it's just pulling us into this century, it's a couple $1,000s, for the year. So once we get through the program tomorrow, I'm just kinda giving you guys heads up, and I will be bringing that to you guys if it's something we think we wanna move forward with, but that's the new thing that we're working on
Okay.
in there as well.
I thought of one more thing and then I forgot it.
We will be moving our meetings down to the music room. If you weren't here the other day, the sound is just too bad and people can't understand and hear when we're in the large room.
Yeah.
So we have tried out the music room. So the plan is to move the actual meetings into the music room, from here on out.
Is there a stage down there and stuff?
No, we're just gonna set the tables out over there. Since we only have 1, 2, 3 people that show up for the meetings, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, cause like for years, we were in that community center room and there's no stage there.
Yeah.
so I mean, just for like,
We don't need the height, they don't think they're gonna rush us, if we do,
It's not
Barb's
that,
there.
the dais surprisingly, we have done this many times, is the dais provides a certain,
oh yeah,
Distance, it's
it's
psychological.
distance and it provides a
Yeah.
certain decorum in the
Yeah.
room to be slightly above the. pushing
so
back
no,
dais.
it does not, and that was the only downside, but at this point, it's just, we can't get the
Yeah.
sound,
Yeah, no, that's great.
because the thing's operating and it's just easier to move it,
Yep.
and here it's gonna be too small.
Legislation was read, cause that was a clear, loud voice that people could hear.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the other thing was, so if I think of it all out.
just keep asking as we get, as long
Yeah,
as
we're
you don't get in trouble.
we're not,
Yeah.
we're not
we're
close
good.
to done, now we're into the meat of things, that was like all the preliminary junk. So our 5 big touches, which already looks to be 6, although I think I put walking path and lake the same,
Okay, perfect.
because I believe the walking path we're discussing is the connector that's gonna go over the south lake. So let's just start
You mean
with
the
real
North Lake?
quick, I'm sorry, the North Lake, you're right, I often
Right.
have those flipped. Eric Fisher is here. Eric, how about we just go straight to you for community building?
Right, and I'll, it's
just have
okay,
to call him again.
jump, so I had a nice conversation with Mike today, on a number of catch-up items, I'll touch on the walking paths as well too.
Awesome, because lakes are next, so there you go.
Right. Community buildings, moving along, for those of you who've been by the community building, you'll see that they're getting frame up as fast as they can, because the concrete was poured on Martin Luther King Day, as it was a warm day. It's been covered to keep it safe, but they want, in order to save an extra month, they're gonna cover stuff as quickly as possible, so they can work in the winter weather here between February and March on the interior frame and all that good stuff. So everything is going well. There's been minor complications as with old volunteer-based buildings, there's some oddities. Nothing crazy at this time that they found, so going well. I like working with Weaver, they're a good group. I will say, just a quick touch on the 2,700 square foot maintenance building from a bid standpoint. We'll try to get Weaver to do a bid as well, along with a couple of prefab companies I'm familiar with. The reason I say that is it's a very difficult environment, as we know from our bidding. Since we already have an active bidder who we're happy with at this time, they may be able to, since they're already on site, be able to do that as well with, a little overhead, since they're already here doing the work.
That would be nice.
So-
And I would just say, for the record, that means what Eric just said is to anyone who still knows anyone who helped build that community building, despite it being volunteer built, just people in the neighborhood, they did a decent job of doing it and doing it enough to spec that people aren't going in there saying, what is this?
It's a solidly built building.
So good job, former residents and volunteers.
Right, that's good. Onto the pathways, had a good conversation with Mike today on a number of issues, just to get things caught up here after the beginning of the year. The pathways there, obviously, we've talked about the lake stuff as well.
Eric, I'm gonna hold up on you for just a second. JP, one of the things we're talking about is trying to connect that Jordan Road area to the main village. In order to do that, we would come across the creek there at the North Lake, and then the walking path would actually extend on a walkway over part of the North Lake,
Right.
and then meet up there at like the intersection.
Right here to Park Lane?
Well, it would not go to Parkland, it would actually go, it wouldn't hit solid ground again until it, here we go, Eric has it. I just know we have a new council person here, and I don't want him to like.
So we have, and this is hard because I've drawn on this, but essentially, we attained easement here, up here, in order to get back to 2 other owners' properties. Now, we're gonna have to obtain some additional easement. Essentially, pathway can be along this side, because we own all the stuff surrounding the lake.
Cool.
Once it gets to this side, we have to cross at this point. and
People's
then-
backyards.
Yeah, we have to cross over here, across the lake, which will be a very neat feature. And then we would be back on our side, here, and then we'd interconnect here, which our pathways already link up, so we'd be right across from the pathway, and that would connect everybody on this part here.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
They should have done that
And
years
it's
ago.
part of.
Correct.
It's
Yeah,
part
well,
of
part of it
the
was
loan.
getting right of
Yeah.
way usage and the
Sorry,
money,
it's not
but
done.
yeah.
It's not done.
Sorry, I didn't, as I say, Eric, I didn't wanna take you off your
Sorry.
rhythm there, but I'm
Thank
pretty
you,
sure
that's
JP
awesome.
was sitting there going,
No, no.
what the heck,
I know, I was like,
what are we talking about? And if he's gonna be here and doing stuff, I wanna know what we're talking about.
Thank you.
Well, I think,
I will.
I think that,
You will see this soon.
an appetite has arisen for, other paths as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
And I'll leave it at that right now, until we're ready to officially talk
Yeah.
about it.
Well, and I think Brian will be a good part in some of those too.
Yeah.
Okay.
We know that there's a lot of pathways we wanna invest in.
Do you want me to continue?
I like
Yes.
yeah, please go on, sorry,
No worries.
just
So
wanna get
that's
him on
the,
board.
Hit on the code rewrite before you're done.
yes, I will touch on
There you
that.
go.
My other.
So so addition to the lake stuff, in which Mike from the scope of work is obviously working, we talked about the pathway, and we discussed the pros and cons of, how we would have to approach the pathway based on how we already obtained easement, and then getting across, and we'll have to work with those two owners, it's their rear unusable portion of the yard on the other side of the, basically where the north lake crawls into their properties. We'll have to get some additional access easement one way or the other. And then we'll be able to get directly to our property. And from that point, it's all our ground and our lake at that point, so there really shouldn't be any issues.
Right.
Other pathways that are being discussed, Mike, as part of the scope of work, as he's doing the intersection over there, I believe at Maplewood and Cleveland, they're gonna have to curb and gutter and repair that. There'll be sidewalk that'll be extended into and around the right of way into the neighborhood, which I think is a really good idea. It'll connect up with the Cleveland Avenue walkway. It'll keep people from walking into the intersection, which would be dangerous. It'll keep them on sidewalk, once they get out of the village, do the intersection to Cleveland Avenue's sidewalk, which is really good. So that's a bonus there. I think that's really good.
And they wouldn't just do that when they repave up there?
When they redo that intersection, correct. It'll just be added as curb and gutter, which is a minor cost considering the rest of the intersection. Yeah, so there's that. Then there's stuff over the last few years, and Mike and I, I've walked Mike down Minerva Lake Road, south of Farview intersection. Some of you might be aware, once the new subdivision was put in, they have curb and gutter. But water comes out of the subdivision and continues to go down that hillside, and it's working itself into the underlayment, because there's no curb and gutter on those roads once you get to the south part or the eastern part of Minerva Lake Road right there. So it's coming around from Farview, water's rushing down, it's cutting into people's curbs. So it's
Oh, okay, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, so what's gonna happen is that roadway all the way from Farview down to State Route 3 is gonna be reworked. And so he's providing a scope of work in that as well. Part of that scope of work will include, he's putting in sidewalk. Now, I told him, I said, really what it's gonna be is, we're not gonna do sidewalk on both sides of the road, because we can only do it one side of the road anyways, which is the north side of the road, because that's where the fire hydrants are, and people don't park on that side anyways. But really, it's gonna be, it'll get corrected, it'll be pathway, because if we're to continue, that'll be nice, because it'll connect all that down to State Route 3. For any future pathway to the walking stuff over on Allen Creek, that'll be a good starting point. Also helps to connect into the existing sidewalks going across north and south of Farview for the school system. It helps make a safer system of walking. As dangerous as it is, people in the neighborhood walk at night, and it provides, unfortunately, it doesn't make me comfortable. I find pedestrians all the time in the roadway here, not properly dressed, they just don't wear reflective clothing generally, right? And it's dark, but that's dangerous, and as you know, we have people who don't really care, there's speeders, people who don't value a speed limit, and don't know people are gonna be in the dark. Some of them will eventually get hit, that worries me as your planner. The way to correct for that is, one, we should work to provide pathways. Minerva Lake Road obviously makes the most sense, as you can connect Cleveland all the way down to State Route 3, and then of course that takes most of our residents right there into the connections that are made at the new subdivision here. So a lot more people have access to pathways. Once we connect Jordan, all of those folks up there are connected, right? So we've increased our connections, we've made things safer, and it's better long term. One other item that's being kicked around in-house, and this is not an expensive thing, is there needs, and you'll probably see this at safety committee as it comes up, as I talked to the chief and lieutenant the other day extensively. Certain intersections need some lighting. They need street light of some type. This one up here at Farview and Minerva Lake Road, very dark. That is dangerous, right? Combine that with no pathways, no street lights at key intersections, you have essentially a dangerous situation for people walking. So you need a light there, and there's probably a couple other ones Chief was talking about that we need lights. And lights aren't expensive, right? Lights are, if we get a pole and a wire over there, in some cases we already have one, this one doesn't. But then AEP provides a Cobra, which we pay $20 or whatever a month. It doesn't cost anything to provide that light from them. So, and there's other solutions too. So, but those are things that I see come up down the road as part of these discussions, which are good.
I'd love to see
Yeah.
the lights. I know that you will have some pushback from some people. I mean, again, I think that's gonna be one of the ones that there are people that I moved here because it's dark and this and that, but I agree with you. It's not safe. It's very difficult for our officers to be able to see certain things and,
Well, when they give us a thing on that, we will definitely look forward to hearing
Go.
about that.
I can look
Yeah,
in,
I can definitely add that in.
we have that light in front of our house,
Information
that's a
about that.
private light that we bought from AEP when we moved here in 1977, and they put that in that pole, and we just hooked it up to our house. So it automatically comes on, we pay, like you said, something like $20 a month.
Yeah, it's not expensive to
Yeah.
get Cobra.
And it helps out a lot, even in that, you know,
It does.
in that parking lot.
It
Yeah.
does. So.
great idea.
And then, yeah, and then I think additionally, the other one that they're gonna rework roadwise is Village, for the Village Road for the pool, because obviously that's getting a lot of use. There'll be some, they're determining where the pathway, but that'll be nice, because you know, you'll eventually kick in pathway there too, but you'll need to have something. That gets a lot of pedestrian traffic, you should definitively have something there. So that's the other one that was on that we were talking about today. Amphitheater, it'll be getting warm again, March to April. Right now, we didn't, I got a couple bids prior to the cold, but we really don't, we're gonna wait to pour concrete here coming up, and we'll have some discussion with council. I've gotten a couple bids pre-winter, all reasonable for pouring the concrete there behind the redone wall.
We have 6 more weeks of winter, so that's.
Right.
Yeah.
So
think
I
you-
just have one request,
Yes.
and I don't remember if it was you or who it was, but there is a huge dream, it's just a dream, that it's completed by the first week of June for Arts in the Park.
Well, we can definitely complete the amphitheater concrete by that time. I mean, I expect to have that done, April-ish, that stuff poured and done, right? A couple of the contractors, you know, I know we talk stamp stuff and some neat stuff. A couple of the contractors are not recommending that, they're like,
Okay.
and we'll.
I would
outline
assume
the reasons.
moving stuff over top of it would be difficult.
Well, even if we made it stamped to look like, say,
Okay.
a nice wood floor, they're saying, don't do that, here's the reasons, blah, 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 and
Okay.
I'll let
Fancy concrete problems. I'm good with that explanation.
I know, I think that's a
Yeah, I mean,
great,
essentially, and, you know, again, not an expensive thing overall to do, which is good, so I'm getting good bids on that, I'm happy.
I think the Arts in the Park people would want electricity though, because I
Yeah.
think they would want
Correct.
to put bands down there.
Understood.
Instead of having them stand in front of the, under tents in front of the
Right.
building.
that's the dream, again, it was just a dream,
Right.
so,
Yeah, that'd be a really good trial too, at small scale, to see what the sound implications really are for that area.
Yeah, we'll investigate how fast we can get electric down
Right.
there.
If nothing else, I have enough extension cord, between myself and Councilperson Wolf, I think we have enough extension cords. We could go from his deck outlet to down there.
oh yeah, that's not that
Maybe-
far.
Maybe with just a couple extra people. I mean, I know I have at least 150 feet, which I guess it's more closer to 500 feet, but that puts us 150 feet closer to there.
Yeah,
We can probably.
I did the
get
measurement.
Probably
we
use generator.
We can likely get AP to drop us a meter, and we can trial it, you know, we'd have to run some extension cord, quite frankly, we could do that. That would give us our meter. I don't know that we can get the electrician and what's the scope of work
Right.
and bid and all that stuff, what we need to do.
That for that matter, I know people have generators that could run a
Yeah.
couple
Right.
amps.
So, and we can talk,
That's noisy unfortunately, but
Yeah.
I think the easiest solution is than just thinking it through, is that we can get a meter dropped over there without too much trouble, at least, you know, pre-wire it, and then move into some, you know, more formal, wiring design.
Awesome, well, that sounds like a discussion for another time, but
Right.
it's hopeful and awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
I think if there was anything else, the building, just back to the building real quick. Thanks to your quick work, everything got ordered from electric panels to the major generator, redone, so that will be looking like it'll be on time for
Good.
construction, which is good.
Nice.
So, happy with that.
code rewrite.
Code rewrite, yes, thank you. Part of what you see in front of you is extra maps for handout, that's part of the code. You'll see a legislation, Jesse was meeting on yesterday, we had a work session to kind of go through the code. It's been a bit of a slog, people are tired of code, but we have a good rewrite of code that'll come up to council. You'll probably spend a few months on wonderful code yourself, but it's in a good position for you to consider detail at this point. One of those details would be the zoning map. This is a proposed zoning map as I put forward, planning and zoning, which will come up with it. We'll explain all that legislation, but essentially reworking A lot of, as you know, we have a number of lots in the old section that are non-conforming among other things, and the new code and zoning map will correct for that, so everyone will have conforming lots in conforming situations. So,
You'll take, it looks like here, all the old units and say, hey, your zoning law is different than new ones, cause you
Right.
were built a long time ago and things were crazy.
we're calling it Minerva Park Legacy Plan District.
Ah,
That's an MPLPD at that point. So, yes, and then there'll be a few other discussion points, as there'll be the opportunity to, I think I mentioned at a meeting earlier before, but opportunity to rezone the industrial area to something different, so that something shouldn't happen to it, and because it right now generates no revenue for the village, and so we should, institutionally make a decision. My recommendation would be to put it into some of the district at some point, get redeveloped to something else, right? I mean, and that can be through any number of means. It may have a fire, and then they can't rebuild it. Honestly, that's what happens. So municipalities rezone things all the time,
Right.
and then it may take 25 years, it may take 2 years, but it'll change at some point.
Yeah, that, the one place is under new ownership now, again.
Right. And
So
as long
that-
as it stays as long as it
Right.
stays what it is, it
Right.
will keep.
But eventually,
being what it is.
I mean, again, I think
so we're
like you
talking
said,
about the storage unit down
Yes.
on 3, yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing, and then, 2 question marks are up by the, rehab center, we can discuss uses or what zoning it goes in, and, if you wanna keep it as that, or if the council doesn't like it as, being used for what it is used now, and if they want something different, you change zoning and make it something different. And eventually they will change their business model to something different, so.
So the areas that you're talking about rezoning are in red?
Yes, I mean, in general, everything, so you can see everything in black, that's, the only thing that stays the current R3 district is the Jordan Road area, because those lots are all conforming. So we're not taking it out of that district, it's staying there, and all those houses meet it. Everything else in the village, except for the plan district with the new subdivision here, is being changed to the legacy district.
Okay,
We're going to, where the Hawthorne sits and the new school sits, that's got some weird R2 district from back in the day. We're going to make that, and my recommendation, make that what's called a suburban office district under our code.
Okay.
That allows for institutional uses, it makes sense to put all of those into the institutional use for schools. Some of the other stuff just remains the same, where you see the blue, all that's neighborhood commercial, it remains the same. And so the only real choices are, do we change the zoning for the storage and or for the rehab center.
Suburban office, and if that thing closes down, then we can put, someone can put a little doctor's thing there. You get all those employees working in our tax zone. Anyway, okay, so that is gonna be a debate for later, I'm sure.
Right.
Mayor Hughes, I think now it's not Mayor Hughes, it's Mayor Souther, I'm sorry.
you're good.
I got all
I
flustered.
answer to everything.
Yeah, Mayor
You should see
Souther.
it.
Would you like to now go into your exciting bid on the lake?
No, not really. I mean, the lakes we're working on just survey work. That Mike's working on
Now's
it.
your time to talk about it.
I know. Well, no, that was it. I already said
I
it.
shouted you down.
I know, you shouted me down. See, I took offense to it. No, I'm kidding. No, it's more survey work, and once we get the proposed plan, we will get it to you guys, but they're chugging away at it. I guess that's the answer.
I think I saw it was like $10,000.
Yeah, 18, if I'm not.
18. You're right, I'm wrong.
is this the only bill we've gotten so far for the lakes?
Other than, yes, this is on top of the actual plan itself.
Oh, okay.
So,
I
or
couldn't
part
remember if
of.
there was a plan and if we had approved
No,
it.
so, yes,
This is
we
the
did.
plan to get the plan.
So-
This is-
Yeah, this is part
This is
of
not
the
plan.
planning process.
This is the,
This is
we
what's
paid
there.
to get the plan, right?
Correct, and
We've
this
already
is
made that
part
This
of
is,
it,
what
yes.
does the
Yes.
bottom of the lake look like?
Yes,
Correct.
okay.
Before we can make a plan, we need
Thank
to
you.
know what we're
Yep.
digging.
We
Got
are
it.
well into weeks of the plan. That's the easiest
So-
way to say it.
So, yeah, and so where are we at with getting that plan?
Oh,
Like, how
months
far
away.
We're still
Months away. I would assume months. Because
Okay.
once he gets these reports, and again, they're gonna look at dredging, they're gonna look at, months away. My understanding is this was supposed to take, which is nerve wracking, I know. My understanding is this was supposed to take around 9 to 12 months. Don't quote me on that, but we can ask Mike for an
So-
update, but I was assuming this was gonna take a while.
So we're really talking about work to be done next year?
Yes,
Okay.
I
Okay.
would assume so.
Alright, I just don't think I I don't think I knew what the timetable was for the whole project.
My-
Which is why I just like, as I said, why I put this on here, the touches, is just like the lakes are gonna be forever. Let's just take a thing to make sure,
No,
are
I-
they still going forward or have
Yeah.
we
No, I
dropped?
agree, I think
No,
we need to
it's-
know what the progress is.
That is, the lakes are completely out of our hands right now, they are in the engineer's hands and getting us the best projects to
I
move
mean,
forward with.
I think, is it unrealistic to ask that they start sending us some updates? on
So Mike sends us an update every month and we can ask him to add the lakes into that.
Right.
It's his firm that does it, so it's not necessarily just him doing it,
Right.
but I would assume he would easily do that.
Should have something soon.
Yeah.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about that today.
I mean, I don't,
We're doing the survey work right now.
It's-
Yeah.
It's coming, it's just, some of this work is specialized.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm fine with just survey work is continuing, I
Yeah.
just,
Just to know
I
that
just,
that's,
yeah,
yeah.
I just,
Yeah, when I,
I
when
get
I,
it.
when I did this up, I envisioned some stuff would be like, well, like, when we're gonna get to outbuildings here in a moment, shelter house and maintenance, the report is, yes, we're voting next week to
Right.
approve putting them out for bid.
Right.
Good, that's what we need to be doing.
Right.
Move on.
And that's the way that, you know, that's the way that this is probably going to be once we get to that point as far as dredging. I mean, I don't think there's any shot that that's not gonna be the number one thing to
Well-
do, but it's the whole plan
Yeah,
to do.
there's engineering at the beginning, we talked about today, there's engineering for 4 bays for sediment control
Right.
in the front,
Right.
north, and the west side of the South Lake. We talked extensively about how we would handle the trash impact coming from the Cleveland Avenue culvert. There is a way to handle that there, because we have access in an alleyway to undevelopable land right there to the southeast corner of Cleveland and Minerva Lake Road.
Okay.
It's owned, most of that land's owned by another, I think her property's right off of Maplewood, because her house is there, and then she's an older woman, my understanding, that there's, my knowledge comes from the former mayor, we talked about this many years ago, but that property that she's got is not a buildable lot. But that we do have alleyway, we could set, we could deal with how we obtain that, through donation and through purchase, whatever. And then we could set up some type of trash collection system and talk to Columbus before it ever gets into the
Yeah,
stream
that'd be
system and head
great,
down to the
yeah.
lake. That's very feasible, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of room to work there. And then,
Perfect.
and then if we get Columbus to cooperate, maybe they can send their trash guys and pick it up, right?
That'd be
I mean,
nice.
something, if we
Yeah.
provide it in coin
Yeah.
cans, they could work with us. We'll see, there's a lot to
Okay.
work out there.
but that's all in the plan that they're working on?
I talked to him today about that.
Okay.
Definitely trash collection was an open thing, we talked about that today. Definitely also, items with the sediment control and 4-bay or some of the design is there, and then dredging is there, right? Pathway on top of that, right? So a lot of different little aspects of the plan.
Right,
All right, Jordan Road, how are we looking? I believe we approved the money for the survey, right?
Correct, all moving forward. The alignments have still been adjusted again, so he's still working on some of those fine details, and there's also some resident, meetings that will be taking place, and that is scheduled for the last week of February, first week of March. So again, well on its way, we are moving forward, we're just waiting. Unfortunately, a lot of this is, all engineering,
Yeah.
so that's where we're at.
All right, moving out to the outbuilding, shelter house, maintenance shed, et cetera. As
Same
I
answer.
said, we voted to send the bids out, we passed as an emergency, I assume the,
No, you're
No,
doing that this
we're
week.
voting next week, yeah.
I'm sorry, you're correct, we're doing that this week, so anyone's last chance to say, man, I really don't think we should do this, we can have an argument here rather than at open council.
No,
That's a
I'm
lot of
okay.
what is done at work session, is I don't like this or I do like this, so that by the time you get to council, you're not spending
We're all-
your time doing
You know-
that.
We just kind of work everything out here.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, I think,
how it's supposed
I
to be
think
done.
David brought up something the other day that had me thinking about the shelter house, and that you were talking about the maintenance building and how you'd like it to be, look like other buildings in the.
Yes, I think there should be
Oh, that's
some.
a good
And,
idea.
and I thought the same thing about the shelter house, it would be nice if it,
That's
I don't wanna go super fancy, but I'm thinking if there's something that we can do that ties it into architecture or theming already in the village, it would be
Same color
nice.
scheme or something.
But,
Ooh, same roof and same
My,
brick.
my thought was that it would look similar to the new houses, if you
Oh,
saw,
yeah.
have you seen the outside pictures?
yeah,
of the
you
one?
showed me the pictures.
So that to me just reminds me of those
Yeah.
new homes, it's
Yeah.
not just gonna be some like metal building or something like that is not the current plan. My current plan is something like it looks like, and to me, it's more of the modern, the,
Cool.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, the MI homes. Like, there were some really cool ones that we got some bids on, And they were $120,000 and they were half the size. So once you start looking at some of those, I don't wanna say Amish built, but similar, those ones just quadrupled in price and unfortunately pushes us out of
Where,
the money that we have
I
for
keep
it.
driving past Westerville's new, up at the park, they put
Yes.
that new
Yeah, that one's,
funky roof looking building, I'm like, that's kinda cool that
Yeah.
they, and I'm sure other parks have something similar.
similar
but-
to it. So the
Yeah.
hope is that we will get multiple people to bid on it. This is gonna be our first go round at the new Bid Express.
Yeah, yeah.
So we will make sure that, we have all the information out there and, hopefully we get some good options and good ideas for that as well as the maintenance garage and, we'll keep working away at it until we find exactly what we need and what we want.
Yeah,
Alright, which brings us to our last thing, repaving. We voted to authorize some repaving, didn't we recently?
Those are
those
not
two-
even on my trigger right now. Everybody's moving
Okay.
forward and.
is that the Maplewood stuff? Is that what you're
Yes,
talking
so
about?
I'm just going
So-
to say that I have about 6 other projects that one is not on my, I'm hoping that that's like a month down the road.
Okay, and it's paving, so you
it's
can't
surveying-
do
yeah.
anything until.
Right.
Right now, it's, the survey work and all of that, but the money has been budgeted to
Okay,
do
well,
those
I guess that's what I'm
projects.
saying.
Yes,
The touch on that is, we have the survey work, have the surveyors
Correct.
came out yet?
no, no,
Okay,
no,
good.
no.
We've authorized the survey work, we've budgeted the money, they have been authorized, they just haven't gotten to it
Maybe I
yet.
should say this, I signed the contract today.
Okay.
I signed that contract
The
today,
surveying contract.
for the survey
Awesome.
contract
So
for that
got
one.
in and we're moving along.
Yep.
That's
So-
a great touch.
So can I add to this or expand on
You
it?
sure can.
Thank you.
In the future, I'll send it out early and then people can.
No,
send
no,
it
no,
the
you're,
same, and then I'll
you're
have
fine,
a
I'm
good
just
final
thinking as
one.
we're going.
Yeah.
So we had we've gotten that list from Mike on all of the projects that we need to get done within the village, right? And I know we haven't taken the time yet to prioritize them and kind of figure out what we wanna do. However, I remember us having a conversation saying that we would like to try to use that, grant writer to see if we could do these projects as part of that grant writing, which I think has a May submission, is that correct? Was that what he's told us?
I don't remember.
Anyways,
May sounds right in my head.
I'm just trying to think, if we work our way back from a May deadline, when do we need to have these decisions made so that we can have enough readings and do whatever we need to do?
I would
We
say he
talking about
probably, we would
March?
need to reach out to him and find out how much time he needs to actually get him prepared to do.
Okay,
Because I was shocked at how extensive some of that stuff is. And
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
I would say February.
so we need to kind of get that on
I
an
would think so.
agenda here
We want to give him a
soon,
list of things to write for,
yeah.
because he's gotta research it, he's gotta
Right.
then find out.
So do we want the streets committee to come to us with a recommendation, or do we wanna discuss it at our next work session? Well, that might be too late.
yeah, I would
'Cause we're
see
not
if
till
Stacy
March.
wants to have a streets meeting in the next couple weeks. Or sooner rather than later, and we can go through. What we did internally was we took, this is just for the streets.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that we're doing the ones that we're doing that are slated for
Right,
finance just kind of
Yeah.
went through and picked the ones that were in the worst shape that we could put
Sure.
together that we had the money for. So those are the only ones that we are touching base on right now.
right.
So yeah, if we wanna add something to that, we just need to,
I mean, do we wanna do that? I guess is the question. Do we wanna,
to continue.
to try to see if we can get a loan for
For additional street projects,
stuff for 2024?
I
Or,
think we do, but I think that's probably gonna be 2024's, well, no, because you need to get it.
we have to do
Correct.
it, yeah,
A year in advance,
A year.
because that's why we couldn't do the
Right.
stuff for the one thing, cause
Right.
it can't, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm following you along now.
Yeah, you're
we
there.
need a list of things.
yeah, we gotta get that
Yeah,
going.
we have it.
Otherwise-
Okay, so.
Otherwise, we miss a year, or we're just paying for it flat out of our annual budget.
Awesome, that is a great suggestion. Code rewrote, which I added to the list of touches. Eric Fisher, who I don't believe I mentioned was in attendance at the beginning of the meeting, but he is, in case you're curious, Barb, that was Eric talking. The one that sounded like Eric. Moving on to any old business anyone wants to go over.
I'm just looking at emails, hang on, and then I can tell you guys anything. We continue to have numerous people reach out about Rita. They have no idea about Rita, and that's all I'm gonna say.
The administration needs to do a better job of educating the taxpayers.
Yes. So, that's, yeah, I really don't know what else to tell anybody as far as that goes. I feel their pain. I know that, some people are just surprised by it. They've asked, how does the village spend the money that we because it seems like a hefty amount and things like that, which again, I totally get, I totally understand. I don't know what to tell people at this
Tell them
point.
eggs are $3.30 a dozen, and people are complaining about it. How much do you think it costs to pave a
Okay.
road?
Then you didn't go to Kroger today because they're $3.99.
Oh, no.
And it was $5.99 for an 18-pack, so I bought, we're
This is
just,
why we need to have
Um,
our time machine and annex a bunch
So
of
they were
these
free.
nearby, so we'll
Yeah.
have a better economic base.
so, but to, again, if anybody has any wonderful ways, we do put it in the newsletter. We are doing what we can do. When you buy a house, it's your responsibility to find out what you need to pay. When you pay your taxes, it is your responsibility. We have had some very nice emails that basically just say we're not doing a good job. They are very nice. And then we've also had the other people that it is, they completely blame myself and council for not educating people and basically going, nothing short of going door to door, I guess. So I don't know if anybody has any wonderful way. We do have residents that are clearly not paying, but Rita's finding them because they just got their letters again. So if anybody has any,
Slight recommendation, just to say, I've gotten tons of emails on Rita, and I've seen them in our village post on Rita to inform residents. I think that's definitely cool, and I think might even see it in the Villager.
oh, it's in there.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. So
I
I
have
don't know if anybody, I know we're not gonna go door to door, but basically if you talk to your neighbors, make sure that they're aware of it. Maybe, we see if MPCA wants to, I know they do those bags, maybe we just need to try to add something additional in there. I believe it is in there. But you actually have to open it and look at it. It's kind of, again, it's the Brian comment that he usually makes
You
and,
can hold your meeting in front of a window with speakers, and if no one stops to look in.
correct.
Then
So-
you did what you're doing.
Right. I mean, it is. It's a big smack when you do find out about it. So if you aren't aware of it, so again, I think on the next meeting I will do my little blurb, but that's probably for the 30 people that already know about it that are watching it. So if anybody has any ways, and it's kind of like you mentioned earlier, it's just again, it's
I have a good CPA I could recommend on Facebook.
yeah. There you
That
go.
would, because
At least they would
explain
know.
that, yeah.
I know the
like-
guy over in Strawberry Farms that we use.
I thought with payroll in my own company about how I have to pay this tax, and they're like, no, you don't, you have to pay a Westerville tax. I said, no, I don't.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I live in
There
Westboro.
are a lot of businesses, I have friends who worked at Chase, and Chase would not payroll deduct from you. They're like, no.
Yeah.
We don't do the little ticky-tacky places,
Yeah.
we don't care. Whereas I, obviously teach for Westerville City Schools, which has schools in 5 different municipalities, and they are resigned to the fact that they have to deal with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
because they have schools in here, Glendon, Westerville, Genoa.
Right.
I guess it's only 4 that they actually have school buildings in.
I think the biggest, people don't understand you have to pay in advance, a year in advance, correct?
No, well, you just have to have it, so, especially if you've got a variable income, depending on what you do, you just have to make sure that you pay by the 4th quarter that
That's
you
right.
paid it correctly.
Correct.
Because if you go to tax time or extension, then they're gonna tack a little penalty onto you, and they're gonna tax interest to the point you pay. So it just depends what your stomach is for that.
Rita is actually due January 15th, not April 15th. And I think that's the other big issue that
yeah.
people have with that is people like us that do are,
We need to change it then. Like, do we not have the statutory authority to
I
do so?
do not believe
No,
so.
because remember, you contract with them, and so you can do your own tax stuff through someone else.
Frankly,
Yeah.
we should consider that because Rita's always been a pain.
We-
Yes, but I don't think us doing it ourselves is gonna make
No,
it
no,
less of a
but
pain.
you do have some other options which you can use.
We
Some
talked to
municipalities have
Cleveland.
explored some of
Yeah.
that.
Right.
And, might be better, there's nothing wrong with talking about it, it's just like a trash service, you get it redone every few years, and, it's one of those things.
I think,
I would go on the record and say they are a bad system.
yeah.
So-
So we did meet with someone last year. I'm not gonna go crazy on this because I think everybody's ready. We did meet with someone last year. After going through the whole process, it was a very similar pricing for us. at the end of the day, we thought, we already have so many people that aren't paying Rita. Now if we go switch it up, not only are those people and then you're gonna lose the other people, we just thought it was going to be an actual nightmare to try to figure out how to switch this
There's now
company.
people who have been paying Rita for 15 years are like, wait, what, there's something new?
Exactly.
I sent my check to Rita.
Yeah, and then trying to figure out how to do it, and then payroll deductions, and I'm sure it's probably easier than, all I can see is if it's not, it is broken, but I don't care what company we go with, they're all gonna be awful because we don't wanna pay it. None of us wanna pay it.
That was my next question.
Then we need to hit the lottery.
David has the solution, let's abolish the income tax and see if Columbus is willing to annex our village, and we can.
That is not, I did
Oh,
not say all
Without the
that.
income tax, we're not a village, without Buddy, we're just a neighborhood in North Columbus, Buddy.
I did not say all those other
And then here's a fun thing for you guys, so, we had I don't know whose child it is or what children, Girl Scouts reached out, they wanna put like a little booth over by the lake. I obviously told them that they could because I love cookies, I can't eat them right now, but anyways, once we get that date, we'll throw it on Facebook and, do that, so, I'm sure somebody won't be happy that we have Girl Scouts over by the lake, but we're gonna put the Girl Scout table over there and let them have at it, so they have to get it approved through their people, that once they asked me, I approved it, and then they have to go to them and make sure that they get it approved, so.
I just wanna say, I think it's so cool that our neighborhood can support
Oh, yeah,
like cool events like Girl Scouts,
Yeah.
like, my God, that's an
Exactly.
awesome
It's
thing.
almost like we're a parking lot in Kroger's.
exactly. That is exactly what I thought, I wonder if they'll deliver for us. So anyways, that's been the biggest things that it's been really busy, I will say that, between, I think, one thing, when you start looking at all these different projects, it has been extremely overwhelming and extremely busy, and, so all I would ask of everybody is if there's something missing, just remind me, because there's a lot. We are going to start having, monthly, I think you know this, we're gonna start having the first Wednesday of every single month, myself, Eric, our fiscal officer and everything, we're gonna start going through all of these because we have so much going on in there and then we'll bring some updates to you guys. So if you guys have anything you want me to bring up in our little meeting, but we're gonna start doing an actual office meeting with everybody because there's just too much going on,
Yeah. And, go ahead.
which is a great thing, it's not a complaint.
Yeah.
So, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but I'm gonna bring it up again.
No,
What about annexing in some property, seeing if we can annex some stuff in?
that's an Eric question.
I know it's an Eric thing.
Just a few, so, and you have to, they're already developed lots. Columbus has successfully come up, your stuff right across from the, starting in that map across from the, storage facility, those are in the township, and you can talk to them, and everything on that northern corner where we've got, a small, square right there of, that would be the southwest side of the corner of State Route 3 and would be the old 161 intersection right there. That, north of that and directly on the east side of that and the northeast side, those are all in the township.
London, yeah.
In the way that this works now, you have to talk to owners, and see if you can, get people to annex this point. It's possible, there has to be incentives for that, right? Usually the reason Columbus, gets people to annex is because they give them some development density, that they wanna do, they can't do in the township. You've already got development there, so it's more or less, think of it this way, hey, when you wanna annex, well, what do I get? Well, you get a better police, and in some cases they do want that, right? However, when they say you gotta pay us, 2% income tax, that's when usually small business owners say,
Sure.
off, right? I mean, that's usually the response. But, not to say people won't do it, and it helps to ask. The other option you have is, at some point, as we've talked about, down the road, especially the smaller properties, you take a position, an ownership position briefly before you put it back on the market, you annex it while you own it, and then you sell it.
Yeah.
Potentially make a profit
Sure.
in that whole thing. But that brings, the purpose of that is you bring it in, you control the annexation. and
Right.
That's it. So.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
I don't know that I'm thinking a ton of property here,
No.
but there's some adjacent pieces that
Well,
just seem like,
They typically grow in time, so if you, as an example, if you move up into the township, and this will put you on a little bit with some township thing, but they get to keep their underlying township. Sometimes townships get pissy, sometimes they don't, right? I mean, you can always work things out with the township. This one's been fairly decent so far to work with. But if you get across the northern part there, and you get across the road, suddenly you've got that large center, which is in the township, where you've got the motorcycle.
Oh, yeah, the
Iron
Iron
Pony.
Pony, yeah.
There's a lot of retail along State Route 3 going towards
I mean-
Westerville. So you've got the ability to do that. You don't
Yeah.
have to annex things you don't want,
Right,
but if you just want the retail along the frontages,
Right.
that generates income tax.
right.
But the
Right.
township probably is.
But,
they
and,
have.
well, I mean, if,
But they would still have it.
I think part of the conversation that we've had about Rita and is that if we had more income from businesses, we
Right.
could potentially lower that.
You could.
So that, whereas it might be 2% now, the more we get of this retail space, or business space, the
You would-
potentially lower it could
You're
be.
talking about giving a credit to those taxpayers who live in the village but work in somewhere else. That's what you're talking about. That's because essentially if they work in Columbus, they're paying
Yeah,
they're paying them and then they come back and they pay us 2%.
Right.
Other cities have that issue too. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a lot of projects, so you've got to maintain your tax rate. But you're right, if you eventually, annex more ground, you have, and you're gonna see, a significant increase. I was talking to your finance officer, so I won't want to steal too much of his thunder, but he's pretty pleased with, the amount of bump you see with, the schools so far, and that'll continue.
yeah, right.
We
So you're
should
gonna-
definitely consider reducing then.
Well, no, I don't think you should, I mean,
Yeah, I
in
don't-
my professional opinion, you should not definitely consider that until you have a lot you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Some
we have
things
a
are
lot
dealt
of-
with, and you have at least, and by the time things are dealt with,
Very
you'll
hard to
then
go back.
have,
We have a lot of
a
infrastructure
5-year
that
I
we
mean,
need
that's
to
true,
catch up
we'll
on.
then have a 5-year, okay,
Right.
we've had everything done, we've had 5 years to see what it actually generates. We can come out with a thing and say, do we need all of this?
Reductions are very difficult to claw back when
Mm-hmm.
you need them, right? So you generally don't want to do that. A great example is the city of Powell I used to work for. They have the lowest tax rate in the area, and they gave a 50% credit to people. So their effective rate was like 0.25%, right? Which was ridiculous because they couldn't, rich community, they didn't have money to pay roads properly, right? They ran into major issues.
Yeah.
Okay, and they just couldn't get people to agree to pass it. So finally, they got up to 1%, right? I mean, without a credit on that, and it's very, very difficult. So I would suggest you keep it where it's at for a while.
And I
Someone's
think-
money,
Right.
don't give it back to them, and
Right.
you absolutely have to.
The other thing that we have to remember is our EMS, our fire and EMS, we have watched that climb pretty significantly. And we just don't know where that's gonna go, and, when you start talking about $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 increases on that, again, at some point, I think it's gonna have to level out, but
Right.
that's a big chunk of change. There are discussions of doing a fire levy or something like that
Right.
instead of, in
But
lieu
all
of.
that
Right.
does is switch the tax burden
Correct.
to
Exactly.
that.
Correct.
It doesn't-
Right.
Right,
It doesn't change the final dollar
Right.
amounts.
Right, and quite frankly, on property tax levies, you're difficult because you burden your residents more
Yep.
than like the school, it'd be great if this was an actual factory,
right,
but they're not gonna pay property taxes on this.
Right.
They're a nonprofit for a
Right.
governmental entity, so you get income tax as your primary thing for having
Right.
this facility here.
yeah,
Property tax will not affect them, you see no increase
Right.
from that.
Well, and then you think about our people that are retired and things like that as well, so.
Right.
Because they're not getting hit with the income tax,
Correct.
because municipalities can't hit your retirement.
Income's a little bit more progressive than a property
Right.
tax.
yeah.
So,
Well, again, I think there's some adjacent land that kind of falls within the square of the village that,
just a little
Makes
bit
sense.
to your east,
Huh?
that's it, a little bit to your east, that's all you got. Columbus controls the majority of that, on our east side.
Uh-huh.
You just have to start either, northeast,
Okay.
the intersection, directly across, there's 3 or 4 properties in the township directly across from
Right.
the.
okay,
Yeah, I think that's worth pursuing.
I would love to get Northland Plaza and all that stuff all the way down through there. It's never gonna happen, but it'd be nice.
because this is city of Columbus,
You have
is
to
that what
get,
you're saying?
you have to go through, you have to magically convince the council members to detach that in some form, and I see hell freezing over long before I see that.
No, I would agree, cause I
Won't do it.
I think,
Even, you would actually have to get I don't know the old owner wanted to annex, but really, the ownership would have to put in a request saying Columbus is not providing me services I require, i.e. police that I want out here regularly, right? What happens is, and they would have to threaten the city of Columbus, because they're gonna tell them to go jump in the lakes, right, essentially. And then they're gonna say, hey, that's my constitutional right to request a detachment, I wanna be detached from the city of Columbus, I wanna be in the municipality to myself. There would have to be a legal battle over that, which takes years, right? And at the end of the day, you're still gonna negotiate with Columbus, they're not gonna let it all go. So it's not really a feasible option.
Yeah,
It's-
okay.
You gotta take what's in the township, and I think you've got some opportunity.
Yeah, okay. Like where we have our current offices?
No, that's in City of Columbus.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, that's the only thing you're gonna tackle is the north of the intersection there.
Well,
So, and we have.
I'll
the
take
ability
what
to do
we
that.
can get, but
We have the
I'm not
ability
gonna,
to do it.
I'm not gonna beat it.
I'm sorry, what does the blue represent once again, the NC?
The NC is the neighborhood commercial district.
Okay,
That's an existing zoning district within.
Yeah, that's just all the businesses and stuff up there.
Right.
but their
Yeah.
taxes don't come to me.
Your,
No, that's coming.
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah.
If you think of a creative way to, get more retail business within our
I have great.
boundaries.
Allow people to run businesses out of their homes and have employees.
Well, yeah, but that's a whole different ballgame. But we're talking about that. You have an opportunity to discuss that under home occupation.
I was gonna say, if you have a permit to get a home occupation, when you file like a fee to pay for that?
Right,
And then
small fee every year or two, depending on how council wants that.
say if someone was a lawyer and they worked at home and whatever they made with that, like.
So
just-
let's be self-employed lawyers, right? So there's a difference between
Okay.
someone who works out of their home, but now the laws changed a little bit on that, so if people are, working out of their house primarily versus Columbus, so my wife now works primarily out of our home, and so she pays, the CODA has to, pay some of her taxes to New Albany and some of her tax to the city of Columbus, based on times, that they basically have that worked out formulaically. So yeah, technically now they're supposed to do that, but if you work for a company, it's different than, working at your home office versus I have an LLC of some type and I'm working out of my house because I'm a baker, or I'm an eBayer, or I'm a TikToker, right?
Social media influencer.
Well, yeah, whatever, but whatever pays the bills, right? So yeah, technically they're supposed to file. Okay.
Okay,
Anything else from anyone?
thank you,
All right, a motion to adjourn.
second,
All in favor?
alright.
Aye.
All right, see you all in a week.